Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to talk about some G1 Climax, some New Japan Pro Wrestling.
I'm climaxing right now.
With me, as always, is my heterosexual life partner, Byron Dirksen.
What's up, dogs?
So,
or dogettes.
And dogettes, yeah. So let's talk about the G1 Climax. Do we want to go into kind of what the G1 Climax is for those who don't know at home?
So the G1 Climax is, if you're familiar with the Wobbly Wobbly Bee at all, which is what everybody seems to mispronounce WWE as.
Wobbly Wobbly.
The Wobbly Wobbly Bee. So, for those of you familiar at all with that concept, the G1 Climax is an annual tournament to crown the G1 Climax champion, which that person gets a shot at the title at Wrestle Kingdom in January. So it's a combination of sort of the Royal Rumble and King of the Ring.
With a little bit of World Cup thrown in.
Yeah, so there's a point stage, and then they get the quarterfinal. Well, was there like a semifinals?
No, it's just the block winner versus block winner.
Yeah. Okay. So the last couple of years we've watched it. It has essentially had a semifinal and then a final.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got two guys coming in that one needs to beat the other to get enough points or what have you. Like last year, Kenny Omega was down 2 points against Naito. So all you could do was really tie, but since Kenny Omega won that match last year, he had the tiebreaker automatically. So by winning the match, you got enough points and the tiebreaker, and he was in.
Yep.
Usually, I would like to see a tournament where somebody has a clear amount of points and is like, yeah, that dude's just going to win. I would like to see how that goes.
I think they did that last year with Goto. I think coming into the final night, he had clinched.
No, I don't think so. You could be right. You probably are right, but I don't remember that being the case. I don't remember who he had to have a match with on the second to last day.
Keep talking, and I'll see if I can find the answer.
All right. Anyway, the G1 Climax is a lot of fun, and we didn't watch every single show because I would say half of the nights, or more than half of the nights, were only in Japanese commentary, and we don't speak Japanese. The matches would have been great, but you're talking about like a 3-hour pay-per-view-esque show, and we watched, I want to say 8 nights? I think it was 7.
7 nights.
Yeah, so we watched 7 nights. If you double that up, plus the language barrier, I mean, the commentary really does help, because the commentary in New Japan is awesome. So we really do enjoy listening to Kevin Kelly and Don Callis, and occasionally Hockey Homero. And previous to that, Steve Corino, who the king of the old school, was excellent and a whole lot of fun. So that's the reason why we didn't watch all of it. We did watch one match, which we'll probably talk about, which was Omega versus Yano, and that was on a Japanese language show. So we we found access to that particular match so that we could observe and report, because there was a lot of heat about that match, which Mio will probably go on ad nauseum because he's very pedantic.
A little bit. Okay, so I have found the answer. Now, what it was is that they did something interesting, but not... it was decided on night 17, which was the final night of the A block. Goto defeated Marufuji. Now, Marufuji was not in contention. He did not have enough points to win the block. Pardon me, he did. But what they did is they had it going into the night. There were 4 people who could still win the block. Goto, Marufuji, Okada, and Tanahashi, and Bad Luck Fale were all able to win the block. This is to me actually some very, very, very interesting. So Tama Tonga beat...
I do remember that, because Tama Tonga beat Fale to spoil the whole thing.
Exactly. Tama Tonga beat Fale, so Fale lost, so he could not win. Goto beat Marufuji. That put Goto in first place. Marufuji could not win. And then Okada and Tanahashi went to a 30-minute draw, giving Goto the title.
Right.
So they had a really complicated block.
Well done, gentlemen.
Whereas Block B was also more interesting. This year was actually very simple in comparison. We'll get to that in a second. Mm-hmm. But Block B was also interesting in that Michael Elgin could still win the block, as well as Naito and Omega. Actually, Elgin may not have been. Let me look up one match result here. Never mind. Elgin could not. Naito had the tiebreaker on him, so Elgin could not win. But could he win if Omega? Okay, he could actually. He could. All right. So he could score 12 points, which was basically the magic number. You want 12 points to win it. Naito, if he beats Omega or draws with Omega, flat out won it. But if Omega beat Naito, and if Elgin had beaten Genius of the Kick, Katsushiko Nakajima, Elgin would have won Block B.
Oh.
But the Genius of the Kick defeated Elgin, and Omega went on to beat Naito and won the block.
That was a hell of a match.
That was probably the match of the tournament. So that's last year. This year was much more simple. They went into the final nights with it being Omega versus Okada. Winner goes through. And it was Naito and Tanahashi? Yeah, Tanahashi. And Naito and Tanahashi, winner goes through. So they went really simple this year. Naito and Omega won, which means Omega finally gets the win over Okada in their trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going to meet night 19 in the finals. Naito versus Omega, a very interesting idea because technically that's two heels against each other. But we'll talk more in depth about that match when we get there. During the tournament, we had some interesting stuff. I think it was probably the most we've seen Kota Ibushi in New Japan. And they booked him pretty strong.
Well, he was working for DDT. I think he stayed in DDT when Omega left. And he's also been doing a lot of work in a lot of other promotions. So this is the first year I believe he's really committed any time to, solid time to New Japan.
He's done some Tiger Mask W stuff for them.
Yeah, that's true. He was Tiger Mask W for the previous year, but even then, I don't think that was a full-time job for him.
Mm. Just grabbing a drink.
Do it.
So he was a bit of a come-out star. Was also big tournament for Juice Robinson.
Correct.
They honestly didn't give Juice that many wins. But what they did do is they gave him some very big wins.
Yes.
I'll go through here in a second here. Juice Robinson, where are you? Robinson. Okay, here we go. He got a win over Michael Elgin. He beat Omega. And then he beat Yano and Kojima as well. So only 4 wins as opposed to 5 losses. But those are some big wins. He's also in the mix for the U.S. title because he beat Omega. Which I suppose we should also explain that. If you defeat the champion in New Japan, you are potentially granted a title shot. I don't want to say guaranteed because is it not? I believe the case is.
I think it's like a title. So if you win the G1 championship, the G1 championship itself is the shot. So it's part Royal Rumble result, it's part King of the Ring, and it's part Money in the Bank. So, as I understand it, if you lose, and it's never really been that well defined, but if you lose a match pertaining to that title, then the person that wins the match gets your shot, sort of a deal. I don't know if there's supposed to be some sort of designated title match, or if you just lose any matches at all, then you lose your thing. That doesn't seem like a thing.
What I'm referring to is that in New Japan, the tradition has been if you pin the champion, you get a title shot down the road.
Yeah.
But I think the G1 kind of mixes it up a bit because champions are going to take multiple pinfalls. So I don't think you're guaranteed a title shot. I think what it is that one of you will get a title shot, and if that person wins the title, then you've lost your shot, I think is what it is. So what I mean by that is, so Kenny Omega is the United States New Japan champion. He was pinned in this tournament by Michael Elgin and by Juice Robinson. They were the only two. Now, if Elgin cashes in, gets a title shot against Omega, and wins, I think that would void Juice Robinson's shot. Is what I'm getting at.
I don't have a clue.
Although Robinson also has a win over Elgin, so I guess actually he would still have a shot.
I don't think it's that complicated. I think it's literally if you are the G1 champion, you get a shot at the title.
Well, I'm not talking about the G1 title. I'm talking about like winning over other champions during the G1.
Oh, I don't think that's a thing. I think that's kind of suspended during the tournament because it's guaranteed. Because the world champion is part of the tournament. So
they were honestly playing it like it was possible though. Like they were talking about Evil getting a title shot against Okada because of course he won during the tournament, and Robinson getting a shot at Omega for the U.S. title. You could be right, but maybe they were just going hypothetically.
There's never been as I understand it, it's kind of, it's all up to kayfabe booking. So I mean, if they want to give you a shot, like when Juice Robinson pinned Naito earlier in the year, they made a big deal about it because they for sure were going to give him a shot at Naito's Intercontinental Champion at the time. I mean, so it seems to be sort of A, at the beck and call of the crowd, and B, kind of you can see the writing on the wall because of the booking. Like they gave your boy Headbutt Jones a definite shot at a title because he beat a guy in a tag match, and he, therefore he gets a shot because he was huge. He was really hot at the time. But I mean, you get
possibly
Finley
even hotter now.
Yeah. But I mean, say David Finley gets a pin over somebody in like a 6-man tag match that's got a title. I don't think they'll really give him a shot.
So kind of more of an informal thing. I could get that. But I guess they still seem to use it to set up title shots. I think you're probably going to see Robinson go for the U.S. title. At some point.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. He's from the U.S.
Indeed. Plus, I think Omega ends up getting the world title at some point, so you need to get the U.S. title off to make that work.
Well, if I'm the one in the booking committee, then I would put the belt on, Okada's had a hell of a run. Best wrestler in the world.
By far.
But it's to the point now where somebody needs to take the title from him, and since Omega did get that clear win over him, I think it should be Omega before Wrestle Kingdom, so that when we go into Wrestle Kingdom, we get to have Naito versus Omega again.
I'd be down with that.
Yeah.
But those are, I think, the two definite candidates to take the title. Naito and Omega.
Right.
So, we'll talk about this for a moment. Let's go over the final standings just for reference. So, the A block final standings was Naito on 14 points. Followed by Tanahashi and Bad Luck Fale, biggest man in the tournament, on 12 points.
Word.
10 points for Goto, who won the block last year. Kota Ibushi on 10, Zack Sabre Jr. on 10, and then 8 points for Tomohiro Ishii, Togi Makabe, 4 for Yoshihashi, who I was surprised they didn't book a little stronger. And in his final G1 ever, Yuji Nagata scored just 2 points.
Yep. Zack Sabre Jr. and Kota Ibushi, first time for either of those guys in the tournament, and they got pushed big.
Yes. Zack Sabre Jr. is basically the number 2 man in one of their main stables, Suzuki-gun.
Yarp.
And then in the B block, Kenny Omega won the block with 14 points from Kazuchika Okada on 13, 12 for Evil, who was another person who got a big push in this tournament.
Yeah, man, even got a new finishing move and everything.
Mm-hmm. 9 points for Minoru Suzuki, 8 points for Tama Tonga and Sanada and Juice Robinson and Toru Yano and Michael Elgin, and 2 points for a guy who I don't think announced it would be his final tournament, but I think might have been Satoshi Kojima got 2.
Yeah, Kojima's, I'm just going to click on the link and find out how old he is. I'm pretty sure he's in his late 40s. He is 46.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in Japan, you can still totally wrestle until you're dead, but there's a definite limit. They will let you know that you're no longer going to be pushed. You have a name, you have a reputation, you have drawing power. That's never going to go away, really. So
you have the nostalgia pop in a nutshell.
Exactly. But it seems to be even stronger in Japan than it is in North America. So I mean, minimum you're going to get a call to do the New Japan Rumble every year, minimum. But yeah, I don't know if I'd put him in in any more tournaments myself. And I'm just checking to see how many times he's won the G1 Climax. He won it in 2010, actually, not too long ago.
I think we may see him be in another one or two, because Nagata's 49 and this is his final one. So
yeah,
I could see even 3 years down the road we still have Kojima.
That could be.
But I think, well, in Kojima's case, I think he's still being pushed to a degree, because Tenkosi's still one of their big tag teams. Kojima and Tenzan.
Yeah,
but as a single, I don't see him holding a title anytime.
No, I don't think so. He and I don't believe Tenzan's doing any more tournaments himself.
Well, Tenzan was going to be in this tournament, but the storyline was he gave his spot to Kojima because Kojima a couple years ago gave Tenzan his spot.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, they made a big deal about that early on.
Best buds forever type deal.
Didn't mention it ever again.
Yep. So they gave Kojima a token win over Sonata, and they gave Yuji Nagata a token win over Zack Sabre Jr. actually. But that was all they got. They were just there to do the job otherwise. Not the strongest field, I'll say that much, because in prior years they had brought some people in from other promotions. For example, in 2016 they brought in Naomichi Marufuji and Genius of the Kick Nakajima to be in the tournament. And I think that was it. But they've done kind of similar to that in prior years.
Last year was... I think
it was just those two.
Yeah, Katsuhiko Nakajima and Naomichi Marufuji. Yeah, I think you're right. I thought there was an ROH guy involved, but not so much. There was just like a ton of ROH.
There was just a ton of ROH guys working the shows.
Yeah,
which didn't have that either this year, really.
No. What's up with them boys? They just not cool anymore, or what's the deal?
Don't know, to be honest. I think this was maybe New Japan trying to be very New Japan with their big tournament.
That could be. I mean, they've got a big enough fucking roster. They don't really need anybody else involved.
Which I guess would be the question with Kojima is, okay, if you're going to take him out, you've got one spot open because Nagata's gone, so you got to replace Nagata in the tournament, and then Kojima. I guess it would depend on who's over, and if they have two guys that they really want to add to the tournament.
Correct.
Because I can't think of any heavyweights that are really on the outside looking in right now. Maybe Beretta, if they built him up to be something.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I look forward to seeing what he's going to get up to.
But no one else really comes to mind unless they want to have a junior in there, because we have established that just because you're a junior doesn't mean you can't be in there. Because Zack Sabre Jr. is strictly speaking a junior. He's below the heavyweight minimum.
Yeah. So. He weighs 19 pounds.
I think he weighs under 200 pounds, actually.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like 100 and... I think somebody said 170.
I think he's heavier than that.
You would think that.
I think he's like 190.
Let's see what Wikipedia says.
187.
Oh, well, there you go. See, I was right.
So I'm very close. No, I'm right.
No, you went over. Price is Right rules.
Shut up. I'm within 3 pounds. I'm within 3 pounds!
You went over!
Okay, so... let's talk about the action itself.
It's pretty good.
Basically, this is much must watch if you're a wrestling fan. The matches in this tournament are fantastic. Basically, anything involving Kenny Omega, anything involving Okada, anything involving Tanahashi is going to be great. Just basic. Mike Elgin's going to be usually money. A number of others. I'm going to throw out a couple of sleepers matches that maybe don't like hearing the names won't make you think it was amazing, but they were really good. Sonata versus Tama Tonga. That was my sleeper match of the tournament. That was fantastic. Particularly Sonata locking Tama Tonga in the Paradise Lock, and him being unable to get out of it while he's up on the ramp and the ref is counting.
That was awesome.
That was fantastic. And Bad Luck Fale and Yujiro Takahashi, Tokyo Pimp, had to come out and they just stomped on him to get him out of the lock. So that was really good. You had another real sleeper was Evil versus Sonata, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, that was a very good kind of inter-faction match, and I also thought Elgin versus Evil was quite good as well.
Elgin Evil was really good as well. If you're into comedy matches, largely what Toru Yano did was pretty good. I will say the controversial match he had with Omega I thought was stepping over the line for a G1 match. I thought it was too comedy-based.
I'm not going to really oppose that, even though I'm a huge Yano mark. I don't really have... I'm not going to say that's not the case, but I did appreciate the match. I thought the match itself in a fishbowl was great, but perhaps not ready for prime time. Not in this context.
Now, I will say the people who are violently angry about that match are
Jim Cornette.
I don't think I ever heard Cornette rant on it, but it wouldn't surprise me. If Jim Cornette has a rant about this match, it is going to be highly negative. Yes. But there were other people that came specifically to mind that were very anti this match. I don't understand that. I don't understand being that upset about this. It's not a match that I thought belonged in the G1. And I was definitely left with mixed feelings after watching it. But, the violent vitriol was, I think, a bit too much.
Yeah, some people needed to really unhurt their butts.
Yeah, you're getting butt hurt, I think, over, honestly, nothing. Now, you could express dislike to not see this again, and, for example, I don't want to see this again. Not in G1. If you want to do this on, House Show or... one of the minor events, go ahead. But and this is not and people are well, if you don't like this, on the other side, people are well, you can't have Yano in the G1 if you feel like this. I'm absolutely I can, because I enjoyed every other Yano match without reservation that I saw. They were good. Particularly, I enjoyed Yano versus Minoru Suzuki. There's a spoiler
that was
for
fantastic.
Because Minoru Suzuki is... full disclosure, Minoru Suzuki is a full-on badass. Psycho, not nice person, and we will generally not say a lot of nice things about him as a human being. But he's a legitimate shooter, a legitimate tough guy in wrestling, and unlike in American wrestling, a lot of the New Japan guys have, number one, they've done MMA fights, with the validity being a little bit questionable. But basically, there's a lot more Ken Shamrocks in a nutshell. Guys who legitimately can hurt you, as opposed to, say, who would be an example? Most WWE guys, it's they're big, so you don't really want to get into a fight with them because they're really, they're really big, really strong, etc. But on do they know how to fight? There's a couple that, I would totally pick a bar fight with Noam Dar.
Yeah.
There's not really anyone on the New Japan roster that I'm interested in fucking with at a bar.
No, not really.
And last of all, Minoru Suzuki. Suzuki, that was great. Suzuki was your you didn't want to face him in the tournament, because as much as there were a number of people who beat him, you came out worse for wear after he was done with you.
Yes.
Kenny Omega, one of the big storylines of the tournament was that Kenny Omega had to fight Minoru Suzuki first, and Suzuki went after his knee, and then for the rest of the tournament, that knee was, injured. And we're not fans of this when WWE does this, because they're constantly doing for no real reason, and then the person's knee, injury is fine. In a tournament, I kind of like it, because it references the accumulation of, this is a marathon, this is not a sprint.
My only issue at all with when New Japan does it is that now I have to go through the rest of this tournament with a guy having to sell an injury that is going to limit his performance in the ring. And that's the antithesis of what I want. So, as long as it's not getting in the way of my enjoyment, I'm cool with it. But if it fucks with, like, if I can't see Kenny Omega pull off a quality V-trigger or whatever because he's going to sell an injury, I'm not interested.
I kind of am in the tournament setting. I'm not a fan of it when they're just doing it in a one-off match.
Yeah.
But to go to your point, though, they didn't. Like, Kenny Omega's matches after that point were still fantastic.
Yeah.
The only one that was kind of weird is his Night 2 match where him and Yujiro Takahashi took on Chase Owens and Tama Tonga. Which ended up being like a real, like, kind of comedy match as opposed to a serious brawl. Which let's talk about that actually, because this pertains to a possible larger storyline. So, the aforementioned match we're talking about. I love the start of it where Tama Tonga and Yujiro Takahashi are just laughing as they're running the ropes. It's like leapfrog, But Chase Owens is in there with Kenny Omega, and he accidentally goes for the knee. And they're making a big show about it. And Tama Tonga is like, no, you do not go for the knee. It's that one, right? Yeah, it's that one. And then he takes Kenny and puts him in a knee bar. Because the following night it was going to be Bullet Club on Bullet Club action, Tama Tonga versus Kenny Omega. Because all of the stables were going to have to fight each other eventually, except for Suzuki-gun, who only had 2 people in the tournament, and they were in separate blocks. But in Block A, you had a number of guys from Chaos. You had Hiroki Goto, you had Tomohiro Ishii, and you had Yoshihashi. You also had... did you have any other... No, okay, that was it for Block A. But Block B, you had 2 members of Bullet Club, of course, Kenny Omega and Tama Tonga. You also had 2 members of LIJ with Evil and Sonata. You had 2 members of Chaos, although one was Toru Yano, so you could... There wasn't a lot of tension when Okada faced Yano, and we'll talk about that match next. And then you kind of had Taguchi Japan with Juice Robinson and Michael Elgin. But, anyways. So you had faction-on-faction violence. And that could play into storyline. And with Bullet Club, it particularly did. Because there's a kind of overarching storyline here of some level of disquiet within the Bullet Club. I have been referring to it as kind of Bullet Club Civil War. Because I think that would be a fantastic kind of way to eventually blow that off. But the deal is that Tama Tonga had made some comments about Kenny Omega being leader of the Bullet Club, not being about the club, and that had created some tension. Notably, he was not at the U.S. title press conference, and it was actually referenced when they were talking. They referenced that Cody wasn't there and that Tama Tonga wasn't there. So there's kind of a tension between Omega and Cody at play, and there's a little bit of tension between Tama Tonga and Omega at play, which could lead to some kind of like Bullet Club versus Elite feud.
Yes.
Which I am all for. Because I've said this before, I think that when Bullet Club started, it felt like a unified faction and everyone seemed to fit, and I think at some point they lost their way and there are some people that I don't know really fit. I think it's become a little bit too big. Sort of NWO WCW problem. Although on a much lesser scale. Like the NWO and WCW became freaking huge and didn't need to.
Well, it became like 3 different fucking factions in one faction.
Yeah. So they're not at that level yet, and hopefully they never get to that level, but there definitely does feel like there's a little bit too much of them. And that some kind of split could occur and be beneficial.
Possibly.
Okay, so you want to talk about the Yano Okada match?
Well, what is there to say about it? It was
hilarious.
Yeah, but I mean, you literally... Okay, go track down every episode of the G1 Climax this year and only watch Yano matches, and you will be entertained like you wouldn't believe. That's pretty much the full stop statement on Toru Yano.
All right.
He's great.
All right, so before we get to the finals, let's talk about some of the storylines happening outside of the tournament, because there was some stuff going on with a number of the belts. I want to talk about the junior heavyweight title, which is currently held by Kushida. And when I say that, I don't mean that he holds the physical belt at the end of this whole thing, because Desperado has it. So, during a multi-man tag match, Suzuki-gun defeated Kushida's team. I think he was with some young lions at the time, maybe David Finlay.
I think so, yeah.
And Desperado literally stole his belt. Like, he's been coming to the ring with Kushida's belt around his neck and stuff. And Kushida's super angry. And here's kind of... People have asked, like, what's my problem with WWE storytelling? And this is kind of it, is that WWE never lets the belt be enough. Like, it's never you're feuding over a belt. We got to add something else. We got to add, I don't like you as a person. I slept with your wife, whatever the case may be. And in this case, this feud is great. We're getting brawls outside between Kushida and his allies, whoever they happen to be, usually members of Taguchi Japan or the Young Lions, or in this most recent episode, Yushin Thunder Liger and Tiger Mask, against Suzuki-gun's kind of B team. And it's all over the belt. Like, there's no promos. Like, there's nothing else other than the belt. And the fans are absolutely enraptured by it.
Yep, pretty much. And Desperado's getting over like a house on fire.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to that match. So, yeah, at some point we're going to get Kushida versus Desperado for the belt there. There's been some interesting stuff with the junior heavyweight tag titles as well. Before the G1 Climax actually got started back at the USA special, the Young Bucks were challenged by Ricochet to take on him and his coach, Taguchi, from Taguchi Japan, in a match, which occurred on day 19 of the G1 Climax. I think the timing was because there's like some weird stuff going on with Ricochet from a contractual standpoint. The rumor is, and it's a pretty solid rumor, that he's negotiating with WWE, but of course he's on Lucha Underground, which has some weird things, so he's kind of like in this real limbo. And it also feels like a couple of independent promotions are trying to curry him to kind of not go to Japan, or not go to WWE with kind of like, we will give you belts! So the Young Bucks were defeated on the G1 Climax final by Taguchi and Ricochet for the belts. And this is Ricochet's... They said that there was 7 titles between him and Taguchi. I guess it's now 9, because now they both actually have another reign. So this is his third or fourth run with the belts. So there's that. And then there's also the World Heavyweight, or not the World, the IWGP Heavyweight titles between War Machine and GOD, and also Hangman Page and Cody Rhodes being involved in that, where the War Machine won the titles back from GOD in a street fight, and then had to face off with Adam Hangman Page and Cody Rhodes, because Adam Page pinned one of the War Machine guys. That was Hanson, I think.
You almost said Adam Cole.
I almost did. And they faced off at the finale with the War Machine coming out on top. Very good match, although I thought that the finish should have been the Hanson Salt. They went on past that, and the actual finish, it just wasn't as good. And that's
they hit Fallout. Fallout is what it is.
Fallout is really cool. It's a fantastic move, but like the Hanson Salt, greater than Fallout.
I think the match should have been over with after the cartwheels.
I did very much enjoy the fact that throughout this whole time, the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes, Chase Owens has been involved in it, Adam Page has been involved in it, and I think Bad Luck Fale, with this idea that there will be a plan. We're going to win by moonsault, or we're going to win by moonsault at 14:03 of the match. And it's never working, but in this particular match, Cody Rhodes' plan was, I'm going to throw Hanson right here, and he just points at the announce table. And during the match, Hanson throws Cody Rhodes into the announce table. So, backfired yet again. So, War Machine retains their titles against that. Then GOD comes out to challenge them. Really bad promo. I think I was into it more than you, from Tonga Tonga.
Yeah, probably. I was bored. This was like a. Who am I going to equate this to? I don't know. It was just like he's never done a promo before. He just kind of said things like this for a while.
Yeah, it was not very good. For those that don't know, God or the Gorillas of Destiny are Haku's kids. I believe the deal is one is his biological kid, whereas the other is adopted. Mm-hmm. But they are Tamatonga and Tongaloa or Tongaroa, depending on what source you use.
Ethnicity.
And so that they wanted a shot, and then the Killer Elite Squad of guys that WWE dropped the frickin' ball with, Archer and Smith come in and beat the crap out of them and announce basically, we are back. We want our goddamn titles.
We are back. Everybody dies.
Yep. The storyline there is that KES was supposed to... The rumor, anyways, and this is not confirmed. The KES guys were supposed to win the titles, but then Archer got hurt, and it wound up being Smith and Azuka fighting for the titles. So they reversed the booking and elected not to put the titles on Suzuki-gun.
Yeah.
And they're back. They're ready. Archer's over as fuck because he spits water at people. Which, again, this is one of those wrestling is just wrestling. I can tell you that that's awesome, but you have to watch it to actually figure it out. So, I'm hyped because I love myself some Killer Elite Squad, and it's good to see Archer healthy.
I have an agreement.
So there's that. So I think we're headed to a 3-way, which would be pretty cool. KES, War Machine, and God.
Giggity threesome.
That's a lot of meat in that ring too. Those are 3 big tag team.
Giggity meat threesome.
I mean, when the smallest tag team of that bunch is the Gorillas of Destiny. I mean, let's reinforce that ring, please. So I can't think of anything else I really want to talk about. So shall we head on to the finals?
Well, we could talk about the Omega Okada trilogy match. Because that was kind of good.
So Kenny Omega and Okada fought on night. Was it 18 or 17?
It was night 18. It was the final
18,
night of the
B block. Yeah, B block. So it was night 18. Omega versus Okada. The winner going on to the finals, basically. I think also if they drew, Okada would go on because he had 13 points.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, to Omega's 12. And really good match.
So essentially, Omega was in exactly the same position that he was the previous year.
Yep, it was replicated. Yep. Only this time, not against Naito. To get to Naito.
Yeah.
I have seen this referred to as the best of the 3 of the trilogy. I didn't agree. I honestly thought both of the earlier 2 matches were better. Now, when I say this, I mean these are all like 5+ star rated matches.
Yes.
So I mean, this is not in any way saying it is a bad match. It is a very, very, very good match. But I did think the other 2 were better.
I don't think that this was the best of the 3, but I think it was as good as the 60-minute draw. It's just that they put it into a much shorter time frame.
So we now have a trilogy where Okada has beaten Omega, Omega has beaten Okada, and they have a draw. So obvious storyline leading to a title match at some point. You suggested it would be before Wrestle Kingdom. I can dig that. Yeah,
well, that's my hope here is that they do some creative nonsense, and it's really they should put the title on Omega. Like, they really, really should. And Okada really should get a break at some point.
Yeah, Okada's been through some rough times, because, of course, we're talking about a title run that has involved him fighting some brutal matches with Omega, as well as some absolutely brutal stuff with Katsuyori Shibata, absolutely brutal stuff with Minoru Suzuki. Bad Luck Fale is always a pretty hard match on you, because he's 340 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a rough ride, and probably some rest and relaxation and recovery are in order.
Yeah.
Although, speaking of Shibata, he made his return at night 19. For those of you who do not know, Kazuhiro Shibata is a former MMA fighter and wrestler. He faced off with Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight title at... what was the event? It was the ROH show.
Honor Rising?
I don't think it was... No, well, it was a New Japan show, but it was like ROH... A lot of ROH talent was there. Anyways, he faced Okada for the title, and he headbutted Okada during the match, and apparently messed up all kinds of stuff in his brain.
Subdural
hematoma. And was told, the rumor was that he may never wrestle again. The rumor
for a little while was that he might just be dead.
Yeah, that he might die. That one went away quick. I think
yeah, that was like
3 days after.
Well, there was a couple of days where he was in a fucking coma, so they were nobody knew anything. They just knew what the doctors found, and they knew what the doctors had done to try and prevent or kind of stop that. And that's all anybody knew for I'd say 2 to 4 days.
Yeah, 2 to 4 days where we didn't know. The thought that he may die came up. I think the idea that he would die came out was discounted pretty early on, though. And it became, could he ever wrestle again? And he made a surprise return at night 19.
Mm-hmm.
Came into the ring, did a bump, and cut a promo. We have no idea what he said, because of course it was in Japanese.
You said 3 words or 2 words?
Yeah. Well, Shibata's never been a long promo guy.
No.
He is the what would be the WWE equivalent to him? Maybe almost like a Benoit.
Yeah,
in a way.
Or sometimes the Undertaker. Undertaker come out and say 2-3 words and then fuck off.
Well, he doesn't have the spookiness of the Undertaker. Correct. I'd say Benoit is probably the closest thing we have. The guy that he doesn't necessarily have a lot of promo ability, but you don't want to F with this guy ever. And he wrestles like it. Presumably he might be coming back. I honestly haven't heard confirmation.
I don't know. I don't have a clue whether or not that's even a good idea. Just because
I would say it's not a good idea, just full on.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can't stop a man from doing what he loves. And
sure you can.
WWE found that out with Kurt Angle. It's we'll let him go, and he'll have no choice but to retire. No, other people will pay him.
Yeah, well, they're about to find out the same thing with your boy Danielson.
Yep. I always said that they should have let Daniel Bryan work a little promo with The Miz, because we make fun of The Miz nonstop for being the softest 10-ply wrestler in wrestling. You could have if anyone can work a safe match with Daniel Bryan, it's The Miz. So that's a little disappointing they didn't do something with that. So onwards to the finals. It's Tetsuya Naito versus Kenny Omega. Like I said, very weird to have two heels facing each other in the finals. I don't know if that's ever been done before in the G1 Climax final. Maybe.
I don't know. I'm not interested in scrolling through Wikipedia that far to find out.
No, I'm not even suggesting we do. I'm just saying. Maybe first time. May not be, because unlike WWE, New Japan kind of accepts a lot of more face versus face and heel versus heel stuff.
Yeah, it's much more of a competition than it is orchestrated. Well, that's the way they portray it.
Yes. And despite the fact that it was heel versus heel, the crowd is going insane, because while these two guys are storyline heels, the reaction to them is very face. They are very, very over. They just happen to also be the leaders of heel stables.
Yeah.
In Naito's case, of course, LIJ, Los Ingobernables de Japón, and of course Bullet Club in the case of Kenny Omega, as well as being the leader of the Elite subgroup.
Los Elite.
So what do you want to say about this match? You want to highlight some spots?
Yeah. All of the things where the guys fell on the heads, that was tremendous and very scary.
The botch on the announce table particularly. I'm pretty sure that was a botch anyways.
Yeah, it looked like he slipped. Like it was supposed to be through the table, but the linen on top of the table slipped, and they went off sideways, and that was a mess. But both guys are true professionals, and therefore pull it out.
Kenny gave out a loud fuck though.
Yeah,
because Kenny was supposed to take a pile driver through the table. There is the spot we're talking about, and Naito slipped.
Yeah, then there was the pile driver on the ring post, or what was that? DDT on the ring post. That was pretty sick, but you could tell that was the exact moment when the crowd turned on Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
Savage!
They became pro Naito.
Well, it was pretty split the whole way, and then he pulled the DDT onto the top of the ring post and looked around at the crowd like, ha 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 ha, and the crowd went, ooh, that's not cool, man.
My favorite spot of the match, and what I thought should have been the finish, I'll be like this is my pet peeve with New Japan, was the top rope. What was it that Kenny was trying to do again? The
power bomb?
Yeah, Kenny was trying to do a power bomb from the top rope, and Naito turned it into a Rana.
Yeah.
That was sick.
Yeah.
Also, another good one. I really like the one-winged angel into a Destino. That was fantastic.
That was awesome.
It was lovely. Like Naito just going, "Thank you for putting me exactly where I need to be to hit this."
The avalanche poison Rana that made me almost jump out of my pants. That one was pretty sick.
Yep.
Basic spoiler alert. Meltzer gave this 5 3/4 stars.
Indeed.
And I am not disagreeing whatsoever. Like you put whatever number you want up there, Dave. I'm with you on this one.
I will say Omega Okada 3 is better because it didn't have a very dangerous botch.
Correct.
But had you not botched the table spot, I probably would have put this match over it.
Yeah, I can see that. It seemed to have like a more constant state of drama, although you were so invested in the third Omega Okada that they could have done virtually anything, and it would have been at least 4 3/4.
Yeah.
And they went to town.
That's it. That's a case of, like, the storyline made me appreciate the match initially. Like I'm already invested when that starts. I'm invested in Naito versus Omega too. I mean, it's the finals of the G1. But Omega versus Okada is the best storyline in wrestling right now. And again, I would like to point out WWE. It is a storyline that is effectively just about the title. That's really it.
I mean, sure, they're both faction guys, but this isn't a faction warfare. Like, you don't even see, other than the Young Bucks, who don't even get involved, they're just there. Mm-hmm. And they actually, I think they add a lot to these matches, just being there and just... Those dudes are the best.
Not so much the one with Naito, but yeah, the ones with Okada, the Young Bucks. Well, we talked about this during the draw, the second match when Bullet Club's all out there. How much almost every Bullet Club member added to the match. Like they weren't just there; they actually made the match better. Like I remember, I believe saying that outside of the two guys in the match, MVP of the match was Hangman Page.
Yeah. But even in this one, the one we just watched with your boy, the Destinos, was it Matt? Yeah, Matt Jackson. At one point, after I believe Naito had hit like a big orbit DDT or something like that, Matt Jackson got up and like basically stuck most of his body through the middle rope and was like clapping, trying to get Omega to get up. And like really bring in the enthusiasm.
Indeed. As much as I'm very mixed on the Young Bucks. I'll be honest. I'm a little Jim Cornette about them. But not to the point where I can ignore that they put on freaking fantastic matches, and when they do good, I'm going to say it. They are in a lot of ways amazing. They're in a lot of ways some of the best parts of the feud between Omega and Okada, and the best parts of Omega's storylines. Because they do a fantastic job just being at ringside, and and Gato does the same for Okada. Although less understandable because it's in Japanese. So, finally the match ends with, I swear, like the 5th Destino of the match. I could be wrong.
The announcers definitely said that there were 5.
Okay. So, Destino number 5 finally puts away Kenny Omega. Naito avenges his loss from last year. He becomes the G1 champion. He will headline the Tokyo Dome. And afterwards, he looks like he's going to throw the trophy. Because Naito's deal is that he does not give a fuck. But he does seem to legitimately be happy. Chono gets in on the action with like giving the fist bump to the LIJ guys as well. So, 6th member of LIJ confirmed. Chono, I'm down with this.
Indeed.
But he gets the win. He'll headline the show. And the question to me is, I think this does, I think, have to mark the start of a face run for Naito, almost.
There's no reason not to at this point. He's so fucking popular.
But the question I think becomes, what do you do with the rest of LIJ? Do they go face with him, or do they stay evil?
Well, they're all pretty over. I mean, Takahashi's over with the crowd, Bushi's over with the crowd, Sonata, they're all evil. Like, they're all over. Why not just let them be tweeners? Like, people cheered for Austin for like 10 years. And he was not really a face for most of that. He was kind of just doing things.
He was fairly face, though. Like, as much as he would do non-traditional face stuff. Like, he was rough around the edges in a nutshell, but a bit more anti-hero than hero. But he would always direct it at the right people, as it were. Like, for example, earlier on in the show, Evil's there, like, destroying... who was it? It was Okada. Yeah. He's there destroying Okada on the chairs and stuff. And, like, Okada's base of the company. And, you know, Tanahashi or Time Bomb is probably at some point going to go back to feuding with Kushida, who's very white meat babyface. And Sonata kind of works better as a heel. So, I don't know. It could lead to Naito maybe splitting off from them and letting them do their thing, and with, I guess, Evil as their leader. And Naito becomes a big babyface. I think you could go either way. Because I think the thing with that is, I think, unlike, say, Suzuki Gun, that stable functions without its leader. You almost don't need Naito in it.
I would, I would agree. It's just that with Naito, it's even better.
True. So I'm not saying you got to go that way. I'm just saying it provides some interesting options with Naito and with LIJ that I would like to see explored in some direction. So that was the G1 Climax. If you've not seen it, please go see it. As much as, like, it's, you know, the ending is spoiled for you, but it was spoiled for us as well.
Yeah, revenge.
Fuck you, Chris Fitch.
Chris Fitch for president 2132.
I think he's dead by then, my friend.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm looking forward to. Fucking twit.
I think we're dead as well, though.
Oh, well, I mean, I suppose that's an option.
So I don't think you and I are going to live to see 2100.
Not with that attitude.
I mean, I'd be 113. You'd be even older.
I suppose that might be a thing, yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, hell, if I have kids living in 2100, I'll be happy. So yeah, that was the tournament. It's must see. It's really good, and it's also, I think, it's a good place to jump into New Japan, because you don't necessarily need to have an understanding of the storylines going in. The tournament itself is the storyline. There's some other stuff, sure. Tension in the Bullet Club. To fully understand Naito's character, I guess you gotta dig back a little bit. But really, you grasp it very quickly. It's I would say any G1 Climax show is maybe the best place to get involved in New Japan.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I have seen New Japan before last year, but the G1 Climax was kind of my first real introduction to the whole thing, rather than just watching matches here and there that were awesome. So, yeah, I would say the G1 is your best entry point. You get introduced to a lot of different guys. There's a lot of matches on each card, so you can get a kind of a good cross section of who's who and what's what and what's going on, because they'll have guys from Block A do their matches, their tournament matches, while the guys from Block B are in like multi-tag matches and stuff like that, or maybe they're having singles matches against other people that aren't even in the tournament. So you'll get to see everybody who's in the tournament every single night, whether they're wrestling a tournament match or not.
Yep. I'm gonna have like a minor rant here, not a long one.
Oh god.
But Don Callis is starting to have some of my delusional heel peeves. I've said this before. I don't like it when a commentator is like purely face, purely heel, necessarily like entirely supporting the faces because they're faces and entirely supporting the heels because they're heels. And Don Callis is usually very much in the middle. For example, he's kind of feuding with, like, he is the designated heel announcer. That being said, he's feuding with some of the heels because the LIJ guys don't like him and will periodically chase him away from the table. And he doesn't really get along with necessarily heels outside of the Bullet Club particularly well, but you know, he is all over Kenny Omega's nuts. He is part of the Winnipeg, Manitoba Wrestling Mafia. But like, he's starting to have a couple of comments now that they're flat out dumb, I guess is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
They're flat out, I can't believe that you actually think this.
There was some extra hyperbole that probably didn't need to happen, but I mean, I kind of just expected it, so it didn't really bother me that much. But I'm right there with you as far as the unbelievable statements go.
Yeah, so hopefully those die down a little bit. Let's just put it that way. Hopefully that dies down a little, and I can go back to really enjoying, in my opinion, the best active commentary team of Kevin Kelly and Don Callis.
Correct.
Although Kevin Kelly and Steve Corino was better.
Yeah, but I'm still enjoying this.
I just called them the best active tag team commentary tandem. I mean.
Correct.
So I definitely enjoy them. WWE commentary is also coming along a little bit better with more Corey Graves.
Also correct.
So there's that. So that's the G1 Climax. You got anything you want to add on top of that?
Not really. New Japan pretty much puts on the best matches in the world. Period. So if you like wrestling, puts forth some effort, track some of this stuff down, and enjoy wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, if I'm forced to sit through nonsense from the WWE, I can always track down some New Japan that I've never seen before and go, I watched, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Tanahashi, like 2 months ago. Holy crap, that was great. And that match is like 3 years old or something like that.
You want great stuff, look up Kurt Angle versus Shinsuke Nakamura.
I can believe that being a thing that is awesome.
Mm-hmm. That was how Nakamura got his first title run.
As well he should.
And, I'll leave off on one more thing. Kitamura, it's time to graduate from the Young Lions. It's time to push Kitamura a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're pushing Oka, Kitamura, and Kawada. They are a little bit, but
I think Kitamura is ready.
Graduation ceremony is for that.
Yeah, I think Kitamura is ready to graduate and become full-fledged wrestler.
Yeah.
So there is that, because I think there's money in him. And, time is not necessarily 100% on their side with him, because he is in his early 30s.
Yeah, they have maybe 15 years with him total, so just kind of maybe go now.
Honestly, I'd say more like a decade of like top-notch play.
Yeah.
Because by that point, he'll be like 42, 43. And that's, I think that's probably your max out point before you become Kojima Nagata territory.
Yeah.
So that is all. Hope everyone enjoyed. We'll be coming back at you this weekend probably to do a WWE wrap-up. We'll kind of throw everything together and We'll talk about what we want to talk about, skip over what we don't want to talk about.
Throw all your clothes, Rick!
Throw all your clothes, Rick! We may talk about some things that are just terrible as well, because like they may be bad enough that we have to blast them.
Yeah. I need to track down some Mae Young Classic stuff. You were saying, what was it, night 5 and 6 were good?
Anything past the first 4 episodes is pretty good.
Okay.
That's at the point where they've eliminated the green girls, basically. They've got rid of the girls who shouldn't have really been there. We'll just kind of leave it at that. Like the girls that, the girls that need to go to the performance center.
You mean like Billy Royce and Kay whatever her name is?
Billy Kay.
Sure, those two. They need to probably go to the performance center and fucking wrestle.
Like I said, I need the 2 Australian girls that were in the Mae Young Classic, Ray Ripley, who was eliminated in the second round, and Toni Storm, who made the final 4. I need them to form an Australian duo and go kick the crap out of Billy Kay and Peyton Royce. Just be like, you have disgraced our country. People don't think we can wrestle now. We must destroy you.
We're going to feed you to the koalas.
Because Ray Ripley needs a ton of work. She's 20 years old, very attractive lady, very good at striking portions. The mat wrestling needs some work, but considering she's been in the business like 2 years, very good. And Toni Storm is, I would say, main roster ready right now, but probably some NXT time wouldn't hurt. So you got that.
I agree.
And the finals of the Mae Young Classic is coming up. I believe tomorrow, actually.
That's very possible.
And we will get Shayna Baszler versus Kairi Sane, which should be good. Should be really good, actually. I think Kairi Sane's got more of the skills to make up for what still is lacking in Shayna Baszler's game.
I just want to see good wrestling. That's all I care about, really.
Pretty much, yes. Well, good wrestling and good storytelling is ideal. So that is all. Get off of Byron's lawn.
Correct.
And if you made it to the end, congratulations. A winner is you.